everyone. Welcome back to Gaming the System, the podcast where four intersectional feminists examine gaming through a feminist lens. This is one of our bonus rounds where we're going to be talking about gaming reasons to be hopeful in 2022, because there are some awesome, wonderful things coming up, and we're all very excited to distract us from everything else that's going on in the world. So, to start off with, Alex, what are you excited about?
One of mine, I've been thinking, is one that I'm actually going to play in a few days' time as a part of a live stream for Gaming the System, and it is called Kina Bridge of Spirits. I think it's been developed by an independent or an indie developer, Ember Lab. But I remember when I saw the trailers for it, I can't remember how many months ago it is now, but they were just so impressive looking in terms of like the graphics and all that sort of thing, and the way they've pushed the capability of the PS5, and of course features a female protagonist. So I'd be very interested to see how that story develops. I think it's a fairly short game because it's an indie developer, but it looks like a real joy, and it looks just really wholesome, and something I'm really looking forward to live streaming for GTS. So that would be my first pick, definitely.
Yeah, I'm hopefully waiting for that to come down in price a little bit. But it was captivating. It's one of those adverts where you just go, "Wow, that looks beautiful."
It does.
So my first one is going to be sinking apparently up to 500 hours into Dying Light 2. Which is the original game is a masterpiece, and this one they've spent like 7 years making. And the first thing you see in the advert is you sprinting into a zombie on the top of a building, and then riding the zombie down to the ground and landing on it, using it as a cushion to land on. And it's just another thing that is beyond belief. I can't even imagine how awesome it's going to be. And it's coming out in February. And just because right now I find a lot of comfort in massive open world games that there is just no end in sight. So I've been playing Assassin's Creed Valhalla, and that just going through all of that, all of the DLC, and just knowing there's no end in sight. I love that with games, and that's what I hope Dying Light will provide me with. Okay, so that's my first one. Jem, have you come up with something in the meantime?
Well, I'm looking forward to exploring the Horizon games because I didn't know. We've talked a little bit about Aloy and what an awesome character that is, but I think that the new one that's coming out in February just looks amazing, and I haven't played any of them, so I'm looking forward to kind of maybe picking that up, and that's inspired me. So it's not it's an I'll go back because I'm always behind these things, but I'm inspired by the new releases. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that. It does just look amazing and so beautiful.
Yeah, it looks like I think they're a bit similar to. Nothing quite beats God of War in pushing the current hardware to its absolute maximum. The only other thing I've seen compared to it is The Last of Us Part 2. But I think, this upcoming Horizon game, just again, another unimaginable thing. Alex, what would be your another one?
That was going to be my second one, but I can talk more about it if you like. Because I got probably about 3/4 of the way through the first one and haven't finished it yet. Not through any reason, like negative reason. I just put the controller down one day and then didn't pick it up again and got distracted by a new game, as is always the way things happen in my life. But yes, I shall definitely be hoping to finish it. But one of the things I really liked about that game in particular was the way that that working to figure out how to defeat the machines is a real puzzle. So combat's a lot more about using your brain than you think it would initially be. It's not just going up and smashing a square, although I do that quite a lot. It's also about figuring out how am I going to beat this particular machine? Where is its weak points? What can I use to exploit those? So it just really made me think about like how I was going to approach situations a lot more and how I was going to get to objectives if I have to get past this type of machine. Have to do it stealthily. There's a lot of thinking involved, so I'd be excited to finish off the first one and then see how they potentially develop that for the second one, because there looks to be a lot of new machines and, in fact, a lot of new humans to contend with as well. So it'll be definitely interesting to see how Aloy's story develops in that, for sure. If you don't mind repeating an answer, but yeah.
Yeah, I think it really felt there's so much raw potential in the first one that I think they are going to really expand on so many gameplay elements. Like now there's like swimming, and I think there are so many things that are excellent, but they can be expanded upon, and I'm confident they're going to do incredible things. Number 2 is hopefully it's a like revolving around the industry itself and the way that it treats people. Because last year we did the Activision Blizzard stuff and how I think where it is they did a settlement and didn't really have to change anything. But I'm hoping as the year goes on, I think an awareness of how the industry treats people and the negative side of it is growing. And I just hope that turns into like real change, because the workers there, they had tremendous support from the public when it came to that. And all of the big studios have those kinds of problems, and I hope they're sweating at the minute because they know that they can be, as with any like abusive system, they're going to be predatory, particularly men, like making life difficult for so many people. And I'm just hopeful that more lawsuits will be brought. I'm hopeful. I don't know if it will happen, but that is my hope.
Mm-hmm. I definitely think there's going to be more scrutiny on looking at accountability for big companies and big developers, but whether that will translate into actual things happening, I don't know. But like you say, we have to be optimistic and hopeful, and have to keep making people aware of what's happening, and hopefully it will push for change. Definitely.
Yeah, and that's what our kind of feminism is about, is lasering in and going, no, all of these people matter, all of them, and working together is the way to defeat the patriarchy, which is the goal of feminism, not to fight amongst ourselves. Jem, have you got another one?
Yeah, well, that really nicely segues into what I was one of my hopes for the next year is really just more female-led game design, and more diversity in general, actually, across the board in games, because I think that these issues come up because of a lack of equality across the board, and a lack of different voices saying different things, and we've talked about that so much. And it's just it's games can get stuck in a rut if it's the same people designing games for themselves all the time. And I think it's that when you bring in people with different backgrounds and different experiences and different lifestyles, then you bring in a whole new a new dynamic to the game design. And I think that is one of the things that the industry lacks, because the big businesses just can't get their asses into gear really when it comes to that. And so my hope is that things like this big fuss at Activision. You know, it was Activision, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Blizzard.
Yeah.
It's not going to. That things like that is going to kickstart other companies into looking at their systems and their policies and their teams, and hopefully, yeah, we'll have more diversely led games, which will lead to, obviously not this year, but down the line will lead to more diverse and intriguing games.
Yeah, I just had the thought of, because what I'm going to go into on our episode about women in war is about how if you've got a game development team and you've got the leadership and you've got 5 middle-aged white men talking about war in the Middle East, who are, I'll go into more of it. I want to say it all now. If you had a refugee from Iraq who was a game developer and came in and worked in that part of that team, that would transform the game and make it into something truly real. It would bring a realism, and it would also bring a feeling of personal. It would bring people into it, real people in, rather than just being, oh, I'm big and brash and awesome, and I'm going to go in and kill all the bad guys. It would. That's how you make interesting games and stop the propaganda side of it. So the diversity bringing in can only make things better, and it would help those middle-aged white men grow to go, oh yeah, there are actual costs to these things. So again, more hope. Who's next? Alex, number 3.
Well, I was going to talk about a specific game, but I'm going to tie in another thing. Since we've been talking, I've thought about it. And my main point has changed, and it's actually going to be, I want to see less microtransactions in games. And I'll tie this into my other point that I was originally going to make, which was I'm looking forward to Star Wars Eclipse, which is a trailer that was released, I think, as part of the Game Awards for a Star Wars game that's being developed by Quantic Dream, I think it is, who did the games like Detroit Become Human, trying to think of the name, like Heavy Rain, all those sorts of games where it's very choice heavy, where microtransactions aren't a thing at all. And of course, with Star Wars games, as we know previously, some of them, as licensed property, have had a lot of microtransactions in them when you think about Star Wars Battlefront and things like that. Just licensed games in general, there's a danger that they can go down that path of being very microtransaction heavy. And so that particular game developed by Quantic Dream looks to be interesting. And we don't know much about the characters that you play or anything really. It was just more of an announcement trailer. But the developer in itself is the most interesting point, in that it's going to be very narrative driven, very choice driven. So room for microtransactions there will not be, as Yoda would say. But hopefully we'll definitely see less of that sort of thing across the board, because they're really bad in terms of just in the way that they target people who might be vulnerable to those sorts of things, and to getting themselves in trouble financially, that sort of thing. I'm sure we can discuss more about it, or have discussed about it in the past, but it's definitely something I think there should be less of in games in general.
Absolutely.
Yeah. You're right about it, and I'm sure we'll talk about game addiction at some point. It's not just the addiction to playing a game that can be bad. It can be an addiction to buying. If you're a game addict and you think, oh, I need to be better at this, then they could be preyed upon by microtransaction people. And well, I'm so glad that incredible story-driven games are not going away as much as the industry, the money people at the top, are desperate for it to die, so that they can just make as much money as possible by putting out live things. And I am so, it fills me with joy every time I think about them going, oh, they're not buying the £70 games. They're desperately trying to force on us. Okay. My one is the entire month of February.
Mm.
Because there's Dying Light 2, there's Horizon Forbidden West, there is Elden Ring, which is probably the one I'm most excited about out of all of them, and then there is also
It'll
damn
come
it,
to you.
there's another one. There's one more, but yeah, the entire month of February, I'm gonna try. I've got a ton of stuff to trade in, so I might trade in my old PS4 and buy all of these games at once. Um,
We won't see you for days. You'll just be
That'll be it.
I'll come out for gaming the system, and then that'll be it. Yeah, basically, it's absolute madness, the number of these games coming out at the same time, and how many of them have been delayed by the pandemic. And just think of how much more time they've had to relax and make these games, because they know that the developers know that when these games are made right, they are going to sell tens of millions of copies. So why not just give them an extra year to make it, and then watch the money roll in for years to come. And yeah, just makes me think I appreciate more and more those developers that like put trust in the people developing the game, rather than going, oh, just get it quickly done now. We'll fill it with microtransactions and we'll fill it and we'll finish it later. So yes, the story-driven games aren't going away. In fact, they're all coming. They're all coming to me in February. Okay, Jem,
Awesome.
finish us off.
Well, chatting to you guys always makes me want to do more gaming. It always makes me. I always end up after every conversation. I always end up with about 3 new games on my list, which is fine because one of my New Year's intentions is to game more, so that's great. But for Christmas I got another controller for the PS5. So and it's beautiful. It's red, but it's not just red. It's not just any red. It's like a velvet red. It's gorgeous. Anyway, I when I got the box, I was like, oh, it's a red thing. When I got it out of the box, I was like, oh, I love this. So what I'm looking forward to this year is finding some decent co-op games that I can play, because I think that everything's better when we work together. And I just think that co-op gaming is a really positive way of gaming. Like when you're working with people against a common enemy, do it in board gaming with Pandemic Legacy. I'm really enjoying that. And it's just fun to play with other people instead of against other people. So I'm not into the whole Fortnite, Overwatch style gaming where you're competing against people. I want to work with my fellow gamers to a common goal, because I think cooperation is how we're going to solve pretty much everything that is facing humanity right now. So yeah, so I'm looking forward to some decent co-op games. So if anyone knows any, please let us know.
Yes, do comment. That's what we love. That brings us to a close, and I hope you're all feeling more positive in some areas when it comes to 2022. Yeah, this has been our bonus round. You can find these bonus rounds every second and fourth Tuesday, and every Thursday you will find us live with some form of content, be it a full podcast episode or a Let's Play. Please do like, share, and subscribe if you're on YouTube or Twitch. Follow us wherever you can find us, to be honest, and particularly on Apple iTunes and on Spotify. Please do give us 5 stars and comment, because that's how we get ourselves into the eyes and ears of as many feminist gamers as possible. So until next time, we have been Matt, Jem, and Alex, and we'll see you then. Bye-bye.